Howdy folks, in this video I'm going to talk about an interview with Mikey Shulman. Not an interview I did, but an interview he did back in April of this year with Michael Mignana, the show Generative Now, hosted by Lightspeed Venture Partners. Great interview, about 45 minutes. I'll put the link in the description. Definitely worth checking out. I wanted to call out a lot of the highlights, some foreshadowing of what would happen just a few months after the recording of the video interview. So let's check into that. But first, who is Mikey Shulman? If you didn't see my last video about his blog entry from August 1st of this year, Mikey Shulman, he's from New York. He's about 34 years old. Started out in high school, a very smart kid, playing bass and some other instruments in bands. Continued that in college as well. He went to Columbia for undergraduate, where he got a BS in Applied Physics and Mathematics. He graduated summa cum laude, which is 3.95 GPA. Not an easy task. Mikey is smart. Then he went to Harvard and studied quantum computing and got his PhD. Again, Mikey is smart. Out of Harvard, he got hired by a company called Kensho. They were focused on analytics for the financial and intelligence communities. Kind of lost my brain there for a second. Doing machine learning analytics for the banking and intelligence communities. And he was focused on converting speech to text for corporate earnings calls. Very, very boring, long, lengthy financial calls. 20 years worth of data he got to work and create models with. He and a few others left to form Suno and then started creating a self-supervised model to train on text, and then applying the concepts to audio, which kind of became popular. The focus on audio analysis intensified for a few reasons that he goes into, and that eventually led to what Suno is today. So let me play the first video clip here, and let's talk about him and his team leaving Kensho to start their own business. What he talks about really is, despite working on a text model, users were trying to make it do things that it wasn't supposed to do. They're trying to make this text to audio model create music, causing Mikey Shulman and team to reconsider their model. So let's watch this one for a second.
And honestly, we weren't sure the instant we left Kensho that we would do music as opposed to speech. We knew speech very well. A lot of people told us speech is this really, really big market. Don't focus on music. That would be a really, really bad idea. And I think a couple of things happened. One is, by virtue of all four of us being musicians and audiophiles, we kind of couldn't help ourselves in some sense of starting to do music. And then there was another really big realization, which is that we put out an open source project called Bark, which is a text-to-speech model. And it got good uptake by the community, got a lot of GitHub stars. And what we found is that we would ask people what they were interested in there was a little sign-up form on the README from Bark. And the biggest thing people wanted was music. And this was a big aha moment for us. It's here's this text-to-speech model. It got a lot of popularity. People like it. And the biggest thing that everybody here wants is not text-to-speech, it's music. And so if you kind of can't help yourself from trying to do music, and then everybody in the community is telling you to go do music, that's a pretty strong signal. That was a little over 6 months ago. So we're just past 6 months from releasing our first music model. We've released a few more since then. And yeah, haven't really looked back.
So he kind of just got persuaded or pushed into it by the community. Users in the community, the developers working on this text-to-speech model saying, can I get this tool to do something different? And that's kind of what happened. So let's take a look at the next clip.
So you come out with Bark, and you're saying developers in the open source community are saying, hey, we want to use this for music. We want to build music applications with this model.
That's right. And in fact, we had a little Discord server, and we would see people trying to pull music out of Bark, albeit poorly. And this is a real clue of here's somebody really abusing your model to try to do something it's not meant to do because they really want to do it.
Yeah, what was that like? Like, did it work? Was it actually spitting out music, or what did that even sound like?
I will decline to say what is and is not music. It spit out like little bits of music sometimes, not terribly reliably, obviously. And sometimes it would sing, and sometimes it would be background music, and it was a total crapshoot. But this was a model meant to do something very, very different.
That last quote is kind of telling. This was a model designed to do something very, very different. Can you see where this is going? Let's go to the next clip when he talks about why productizing music.
So developers wanted music. You guys, as founders, were very passionate about music. Sounds like you were all musicians, but maybe beyond the passion for music, why music from a product direction? Like, what's the opportunity for generative music?
I think there's a lot, and I think we only focus on some of it. I'll tell you the corner that we focus on, which I think is the most interesting and the most fun, is making music that doesn't exist. And so I think, the way we think about this is, let's just look at the music landscape right now. Most people have a streaming service like Spotify or Apple Music, and they kind of sit there passively listening to music, much of the time maybe not even paying attention to it. And there is so much more to experiencing music than just that. And one very big thing is creating music, and I guess I'm lucky to have experienced that joy creating music with people, but there's usually a pretty big barrier to doing that, which is like getting pretty good at an instrument or getting pretty good at some complicated piece of software like Ableton or Logic or even GarageBand. And you can think generative AI is a tool, a means to an end to letting everybody kind of take the sounds that are in their head and make really nice music out of it. One thing.
So I love how Mikey Shulman talks about how music is consumed today. People listening passively. They don't really care necessarily. He doesn't say that, but I'm saying that. But listening passively meaning they're not participating. And he believes sincerely that there's more to music than just listening. You can get great joy of listening. Billions of people do. But there's even more potential joy by being a participant in the process. And he's trying to help remove barriers to entry in the music world. So now he's got an interesting comment coming up comparing the music industry to the gaming industry. Let's get into that.
One thing that we often think about is you look at the gaming industry is 30 to 50 times bigger than the music industry. And, if you wanted to be really reductive about why that is, it's because you are a very active participant in gaming. And so, one thing to think about is what are the other 49/50ths of music that we've just yet to build a compelling product experience around? And it's not only I sit in front of my computer and I make music and then I share it with someone, although that is really, really big. But there's lots of things from doing it with people, you often play games with people, and that can be some of the most fun gaming experiences. We talk a lot about having collaborative concerts and stuff like that, or little jam sessions. There are, I think, totally unexplored social dynamics around what happens when you let people make music for their friends and share it the same way you might do with an image. So there's just so much that is, I think, unexplored, and we're just beginning to explore the creation bit now, but there's a lot more to come after that.
So I find it interesting, the gaming comparison again. I sense sincerity in his opinions here. He's thinking forward, visionary, community, helping others, etc. He's not thinking, how can I steal money from the record companies? How can I screw musicians? And that's kind of what the lawsuit asserts, is that the company created the tool to copy and steal, which is absolute horse hockey, as some folks will say. So let's get into the next one, about doing things the right way.
And then on the output side, you've clearly made some very intentional choices, obviously in terms of the quality, which is phenomenal, but also on the limitations, right? I believe, you make it very difficult, if not impossible, for anyone to make anything that may be infringing of existing artist rights. Maybe talk a little bit about that.
We always said we were going to do audio the right way, and technically that meant kind of the foundation model approach. And then, ethically and legally, that means not trying to infringe on existing artists and trying to do this in a way that is artist friendly. And this is not only because it's ethical and legal and moral, it's because it's also what we think is the future of how people want to do music. It's that other 49/50th that we were talking about before of people aren't going to lose their connections to artists. But there's just a lot of other experiences that we can do. And so
people are not going to lose their connections with artists. I think it's a very strong statement, and he values that connection with artists, values the respect that people have for music, the emotional attachment that people have for music. So now let's talk about some guardrails and how the tool works and tries to limit and control output.
We don't let you say, make me a Taylor Swift song. Actually, our models don't even know who Taylor Swift is, but instead of actually making something up that's just not, we try to gently nudge users into the behavior that we think is the long-lasting one, which is making the original music that's in your head. And the same for other people's existing lyrics. And one thing that, is actually nice for us is there's a lot of these cover type things where, maybe you could have Taylor Swift doing Enter Sandman by Metallica. And I think those tend to go very viral. And I think that is really not the future of how people want to do music. And so we're very happy to kind of let those things go viral and then kind of evaporate somewhat quickly. And I think the analogy that
not with your platform.
Exactly.
Yeah,
so you can't do that with our platform. You can do that with someone else's. It is almost certainly illegal. It is very viral, and I don't think that is the long-lasting use case. I think the analogy that I have in my head for making covers, for Taylor Swift covering Enter Sandman, is the first time you played with GPT and you made a Shakespeare sonnet about drinking coffee, and then you made another one, and then the third time you were like, this is cute, but this is not what I want to do. And that doesn't mean that GPT isn't extremely cool and useful, because it is. It's just not for writing parody Shakespeare sonnets.
You see where he's going there? GPT is not about writing parody Shakespeare sonnets, and Suno was not about writing copycat, meme-tastic, viral clips. It's about creating something new. I love that. So now let's talk a little bit about the Wild West and the training of data and tools out there.
Is this notion of training and training on the entirety of the internet. Definitely feels like it's a little bit of a Wild West right now. The OpenAI New York Times case comes to mind, and everything that's being discussed there. Like, how do you think this shakes out? Are there changes coming, and what will that mean for the future of these large foundational models?
Yeah, I think there definitely are changes that are going to come. I think some will be across the modalities. Others may be modality specific. I think music is particularly interesting because there are just much more established ways of interacting with rights holders. And for example, on the let's take that New York Times OpenAI lawsuit where the New York Times is upset that you can get an entire New York Times article out of GPT with the right prompt. There are, if I have a restaurant and I stream some song, there are like very obvious ways that are established that I can compensate the owners of that song, the master and the songwriter, and that doesn't exist in text. And so I think it's not going to be blanket solutions that apply across the whole industry. I think some things will and some things won't. The thing that's going to be really tricky here, I think, is actually geographical differences between, let's say, different countries. And I'm honestly a little bit worried about how things will shake out. Is OpenAI going to have different models in the EU and in the US and stuff like that? And just that may get very difficult and kind of prone to I don't know, hacking, and people are going to be using like VPNs to access different countries' models and stuff like that.
So it's still a Wild West as far as the training models go, but Shulman's discussing different ways to compensate copyright owners. Again, he's not trying to infringe or steal. He's talking about recognizing the owners, the performers, owners of the masters, etc. So he's cognizant of that. He's not trying to rip anybody off. So now let's talk about how to sort this stuff out from a legal perspective.
I think it's really, really early. I think people think this is going to get sorted out in the next 6 months. And I don't even think the OpenAI lawsuit won't get sorted out in the next 6 months, but that won't even sort everything out for the whole industry. So, for us as Suno, especially with music being somewhat farther behind images and text, we watch this stuff very closely. We try to always do the legal and moral and ethical thing, and these things aren't always the same. Something that's legal may still be not artist friendly. The thing that we stress is it's like super early, and I don't think there are any scenarios that are amazing for us or terrible for us that I can foresee in the next year.
Suno's trying to pursue the proper legal path. It's going to take time for this stuff to get sorted out. And this was, again, recorded back in April before the lawsuit dropped in June. So I would love to see an interview with him this week compared to this April interview. He's got a different tone, as you will see in the blog article he released on August 1st. So that being said, let's take a look at potential licensing opportunities, how that might work going forward in the future.
It seems like OpenAI is doing licensing deals with media publishers, and you have to imagine a world in which those media publishers obviously then benefit in some way. Maybe it helps drive subscriptions, or I don't know. Maybe there's a new version of these models where you can use certain ones that output New York Times and certain ones that don't. Do you imagine similar types of deals happening in music? Can you imagine a world in which, I know we keep mentioning Taylor Swift, the Taylor Swifts of the world are collaborating directly with music models to create, generative Taylor Swift music?
Yeah, 100%. So, Google is starting to do this with their Lyria project, and they have a few big artists on board there. But if we think about it, let's fast forward a few years, and the licensing climate is a little less uncertain, and maybe we can let you prompt the model with a Taylor Swift song, and this was the big inspiration, and there's something that is akin to the way people pay out for sampling now, but it's obviously a little bit different. And then all you had to do, Mike, when you wanted to make a Taylor Swift inspired song was pay for that sample. And I don't know how much it will be, and I don't know how much will actually go to Taylor Swift, but we will be able to let you do that. And we can actually do that right now. We just can't let you do that because we don't know how to pay Taylor Swift for it.
Right. So it's technically possible. It's just not the infrastructure for that from a royalty perspective is not yet built.
Exactly.
So it's technically possible now to have end users, pay people based on license ownership if you want to pursue that. If I go in and I want to do a Bruno Mars inspired song, I can go in and say, hey, this is a Bruno Mars inspiration. Click the checkbox, pay the man for whatever, or the record company, whatever. The technology is there, but the infrastructure is not. The receiving end, the artist, the record companies, etc., is not there yet. And it's a very, very complex thing to figure out. Is it Bruno Mars influenced? Is it Prince influenced? Is it James Brown influenced? Is it Chuck Berry influenced? That's a whole separate ball of wax, can of worms, spaghetti knot to figure out. But it's very, very complex. So at the end of the day, does this look like a business owner that's trying to hurt record companies or the music industry in general? This was recorded back in April. The lawsuit dropped in June. Shulman's response was published August 1st. That was a video I released earlier this week. The record companies don't care a damn about saving the market from saturation or protecting the artist's creativity and freedom of expression. That's not what the lawsuit is about. If you believe that, you're letting your emotions get in the way of rational thought. The record companies are doing this for the money, protecting theirs or making more. But it's not about this company, Suno, going out with the intention of breaking the record industry, of saturating the market, of stealing. That's just not the case, but that's what's being asserted in the lawsuit. So Suno's mission at the end of the day is to democratize music creation, allowing everyone to create and engage with music. The lawsuit from the record companies alleges that Suno's data infringes on copyrights, and that they see that as a threat Suno sees that as a threat to innovation. Now, at the bottom line, at the end of the day, the record companies and a whole lot of folks out there don't understand how AI models learn, how they train, how they work. Suno's technology, learns and generates music similar to human learning. It's not mere copying. Now, yes, it does it a whole lot faster, exponentially faster. But how fast you do something doesn't change the legal process of what it is. There's an analogy I'm trying to find, and maybe it's fodder for another video. But cars are faster than trains. Trains are faster than horses. Horses are faster than mules. Mules are faster than the guy with a hoe. Technology changes, things get faster. You can say the same thing for computer processors or assembly lines or whatever. It's not the speed that matters. It's the process, the legality of the process that's the issue. And it's obvious from listening to him that he cares about originality. He mentioned that many times, creating music that didn't exist, creating something new. He mentioned his efforts to protect copyright infringement and to keep people from just saying, hey, write a Taylor Swift song. And from what it sounds like, back in April, he was looking to work with the record companies. He mentions that in the blog as well. They were working early. ChatGPT was working with other companies on how to do licensing models. And I'm pretty sure Suno was in the same boat. But then the lawsuit dropped, and I think that changed just a little bit. So in a nutshell, I think basically the market is freaking out over a really cool tool that can make people happy, because individuals are trying to force the tool to do something it was not intended to do. I guess that's apparently human nature. Mikey talked about how developers are trying to take this rudimentary new open source text-to-speech tool and saying, let me kind of change this and see if I can get music out of it. Now, it seems that people are always trying to find new ways to use stuff, whether it's good or bad. There's lots of cases in history of that. For example, the internet. The internet was originally created by DARPANET to help with educational research projects. It's an exclusive club between just a few universities and the government. It exploded, obviously changed the world for good and for better and for worse. But it's also being used by criminals today for identity theft and cybercrime, online bullying, all this other crap. Negative, use of networking technology. Is that the telco company's fault and the networking hardware and router and Wi-Fi manufacturing company's fault? No, it's the end users doing the bad things. Social media took it to a whole new level. Social media was created, to connect people. Facebook wanted to connect folks. Well, now they started bringing all sorts of other stuff involved. For the past, 8 to 10 years, if you do the actual research, you'll see companies like TikTok are really, literally manipulating public opinion and really screwing with the minds of youth today, especially young girls. The mental health crisis of TikTok is real. It's not tinfoil hat stuff. If you look at the statistics of self-harm, of suicide in the past 8 to 10 years, it directly correlates to social media. There's lots of data. It's not my area of expertise, but it's a true thing. Look at genetic engineering, originally designed to help make crops survive bad conditions or get better yield from seeds and plants and things of that sort. But now we've got unethical bioengineering. There's people out there trying to do things around eugenics, making the population shrink. And of course, we have biological warfare. So there's that. Cryptocurrency. It was originally designed to give the common man freedom to do transactions, anonymously, decentralized, not worrying about banks, etc. But now we're looking at money laundering and criminal use and using it for ransomware. So again, technology created for one thing, used by others for a bad thing. One more, GPS technology. Started with the military on how to help navigate and deal with, isolation, location of vehicles and ships, etc., navigation. But now it's being used for unauthorized tracking and stalking and things of that sort. So technology gets introduced for altruistic or just positive uses and causes, but then the bad guys get out there and start using it for something different. Now, I'm not saying that people trying to recreate Taylor Swift's song are the same thing as cyberbullies, online hackers, ransomware hackers, etc. I'm just saying that the concept is that a tool is created. The tool is not responsible for how it's used. I'm not fat because of spoons. I use the spoon, okay? I like ice cream. Okay, so it's not the spoon's fault. It's not the tool's fault. It's the user, me, the user. So, Suno's a business. They're in it to make money, like every business, like all of us. You guys out there writing music for TV, maybe you're doing it for fun. Maybe you want to do it for revenue and a living income. whatever jobs you have, if you're not making money in music, you're not working for the goodness of your heart. You're working to make a personal profit. You want to pay the bills, have some money to have fun. There's nothing wrong with a business making profit, but that's not the reason, the main driver behind how Suno came to be. So I've got no idea where the lawsuit's going to end up. Perhaps Shulman's blog that he released last week, and his stance he took, maybe he's confident that he's going to win. I think he should win, because what the things that the record company lawyers are asserting about trying to dilute the market and trying to harm record companies and artists are just absurd. But we've seen plenty of lawsuits, especially recently, that make zero sense. But juries get it wrong, judges get it wrong. There's corruption, there's bias. Ask Katy Perry, ask Ed Sheeran. There's a lot of ways to make juries go a certain way, whether or not their outcome is right. Because many times in court, it's about winning. It's not about justice. So I think, getting back to the main point, I think what's going to happen is that there will be no verdict, that the record companies will come to an agreement with Suno and Udio, for that matter, they're involved as well, for profit sharing, revenue sharing of some kind, licensing, and everything will be fine, because at the end of the day, in business, is always about the money. That, I think, is going to be the final driving factor. It's about record companies protecting their money and trying to get more. So after watching this, go check out the full interview if you want to hear the full context of what Mikey Shulman had to say. I do not see a person out to get anyone. I see a guy that loves music, that's incredibly smart, that started working in this AI stuff that popped up, created something, folks started steering in a different direction, he followed, went to music instead of audio, and bam, here we go. Let me know what you think in the comments. People have been lighting me up. I love it. I love the interaction. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. Do all the internet things. Thanks for watching.